Hello soulmate, you're highly welcome back again to this YouTube channel, and if this is your first time here, you're highly welcome. Please do well to hit the subscribe button and also click on the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I drop a new video. So in this video we will be making this beautiful fitted pencil skirt that has a front side slit. So if this is something you're interested in making, if this is something you want to learn, then do well and keep watching, and also do not touch the dial. So this is the material I'm making use of. I really do not know the name. I don't know if it is spandex material because it's very stretchy, so I really do not know its name. But this fabric is about 2 yards. Yes, I'm making a skirt and also a top with this. In drafting a pencil skirt with side slit, you need your round waist measurement, you need your round hip measurement, the waist to knee length, the skirt length, the waist to the underbust, the bust span of that person you're making the skirt for, and also where you want the front slit of that skirt to stop. Now, also you'll be making use of your pattern paper for this. You'll be making use of your rule. You also be making use of a pen and also the tape rule. So these are most of the things that you'll be needing for drafting out the skirt. So without much talk, let's dive right into the drafting. So we'll be drafting out the front pattern first, and the first thing you would want to do is to come down from the beginning of your paper by 1 inch. So you go ahead and come down from the beginning of your pattern paper by 1 inch like this, and then I'll bring in my rule to connect the dots to get a straight line like so. And this line is called the top line or the starting line. After doing this, the next step is to mark out the hip line. Now for this person, I'm making use of 8 inches for the hip line. You can either go ahead and measure from the waist to the fullest part of the hip to get the hip line, or you can go ahead and use 10 inches if the person is extremely tall, 9 inches if the person is tall, 8 inches if the person is of an average height, and 7 inches if the person is short. So this person is, of an average height, so I'm making use of 8 inches as the hip line. Then I'll bring in my rule to connect the dots to get a straight line like this. So this line is referred to as the hip line. Next is to mark out the knee line. So you go ahead and measure from the waist to the knee and mark it out. So from the waist to the knee for this person is 22 inches, and that is what I am marking out here. And I'll be using broken lines to represent this because there is something I need to explain to you briefly. So this line is referred to as the original knee line. Now, it's advisable you go up from your original knee line by 2 inches and mark that as your new knee line. Reason being that in scenarios whereby you're making a mermaid skirt, you don't want the skirt to be tight around the knee because you want your client to be able to work. So doing the tight knee 2 inches above the knee enables your clients to be able to walk freely and move freely. So I'll go ahead and come up from the original knee line by 2 inches. So this is done whether you're doing a mermaid skirt or not, although it favors the mermaid skirt more, but it's advisable you just go up from your knee line by 2 inches. And this line will now be the new knee line. So because it's a front side slit, I still need the original knee line. That was why I just had to mark out the original knee line. I hope you don't understand this whole concept. So the next thing is to mark out the skirt length. And for this skirt, the client requested that it should be 8 inches longer from the original knee line. So I'll go ahead and mark out 8 inches like this. So in total, this skirt is 30 inches long. So mind you, you can also go ahead and take your measurements from the waist to wherever you want the skirt to stop. However you take your measurement, it's no problem. Just make sure that you're getting it right, that you have the right measurement. So you can actually mark the measurement from the waist to wherever you want the skirt to stop, or from the knee to wherever you want the skirt to stop. However you get your skirt length is fine. So right now it's time to go ahead and divide the round bodice measurement by 4 and mark it out. So on this top line here, I'll go ahead and divide the round waist measurement by 4 and mark it out here. So the round waist measurement I'm working with is 27. Divided by 4 gives me 6.75. I'll go ahead and mark that out there. Now on the hip line, you go ahead and divide the round hip measurement by 4 and mark it out. So the round hip I'm working with is 36. Divided by 4 gives me 9 inches. And that is what I have marked out on the hip line here. And I'll go ahead and bring in my rule to connect these dots together. Now take note that I'm not putting any dart on the skirt. I don't need any dart on the skirt. So the more reason I didn't add 1 inch for dart allowance on the waist measurement. Next, on the new knee line, you're going to subtract 2 inches from whatever you've marked out on your hip line. So since on this hip line I marked out 9 inches, 9 minus 2 gives me 7, and that is what I'll go ahead and mark out on the new knee line. And this is done for all both sizes. But if you want an extreme fitted skirt for your client, not minding if the client will be able to move freely, or maybe if it's for only picture purpose, then you can go over to my previous video on how to draft out a pencil skirt and follow the instructions. So I'll go ahead and subtract 2 inches from this 9 inches, giving me 7, and I'll go ahead and mark that 7 out on the knee line and also on the skirt line like this. And I'll go ahead and bring in my rule and connect this together. So I'll first of all connect the knee line to the skirt line like this, to the skirt length rather, like this. And then I'll connect the knee line to the hip line like this. And now the front pattern of the skirt is almost ready. So I'll go ahead and bring in my scissors and cut this out like this. We all know that skirts do have waistbands. So right now it's time to cut out the waistband from this front pattern. And for this skirt, I want the waistband to be 1.5 inches wide. Yes. And always take note of indicating your side front and your center front. So I'll start marking out the 1.5 inches right here like this from the waist, because obviously that's where the waistband is seated. So I'll go ahead and mark 1.5 inches down. So you can decide if you want your waistband to be 2 inches wide, 1 inch wide, but I think 1.5 inches is perfect for a skirt waistband. And I'll go ahead and bring in my rule and connect the dots to get a straight line. Then I'll bring in my pen and indicate the waist, the side front, the center front, and also the down part of the waistband, so it's easier for me to indicate which side is which. And I'll go ahead and cut this open like this. So for the allowances, I'll be leaving half an inch at the waist here, 1 inch for the side front, half an inch for joining here, half an inch for joining here as well, 1 inch for the seam allowance. And for the aim, I'll be leaving either half an inch, 1 inch, or 2 inches, depending on the method I want to use for sewing this skirt, which I'm yet to decide on. So once I decide on that, I will know the allowance to leave at the aim. So right now, I'll go ahead and pin the waistband to this front pattern so I don't misplace it. So next is to draft out the back pattern of this skirt. And in doing so, you know the usual thing now. You come down from the beginning of your paper by 1 inch like this. And I'll go ahead and bring in my rule to connect these dots to get a straight line like this. So this line is referred to the top line or the starting line. Next is to mark out the hip line, and obviously the hip line I'm working with is 8 inches, which I explained earlier on. So I'm marking out 8 inches like this. And I'll go ahead and bring in my rule to connect the dots to get a straight line like so. So this line is referred to as the hip line. Next step is to mark out the knee line, and which I've explained to you earlier on that it is 22 inches. So I'm just marking this out using the broken lines, and I believe I've explained this to you before. So you go up by 2 inches, you go up with 2 inches from the original neckline like this. So ignore those other lines on the other side. They are the lines from the one I used to draft out the front pattern. So just ignore those lines on the other side. So I'll go ahead and connect this to get a straight line like this. And this is the new neckline, while this is the original neckline. Next is to mark out the skirt length, and obviously for the skirts, I'm marking it 8 inches from the original neckline like this. So you decide where you want your skirt to stop and mark it out. So for this client, she wants her skirt to be 8 inches below her knee. So that is what I am marking out here. And I've used my rule to connect the dots to get a straight line. And this line is referred to as the skirt length. Now that we have this, there is one more line that has to be at the back pattern, and that is the underbutt line, because obviously your bum is on your back, right? So we have to create that beautiful butt contour for the pencil skirt. So to do that, measure from the deepest part of the back to under the butt. That is how you get your underbutt line. Or you can go over to my previous video where I did a very detailed tutorial on how to draft out a skirt and see how you can also get the underbutt line without taking the measurement. So for this client, the underbutt line is 14 inches, and that is what I am marking out. So for this client, I actually measured it and it was 14 inches, and that is what I marked out. So this line is referred to as the underbutt line, and the reason for this line is because there is a bum at the back and you want to do the butt contour. Another most important thing we need to take note of is the back tightening. Like, this is very important, and to achieve the back tightening on your skirts, you need to go in on from your center back on your waist by 0.75. So from this point on your center back, you go in by 0.75 on the waist like this, and you connect this to the hip line. So the importance of this is that it eliminates any form of bulging on the zip, making the zip lay perfectly on your back. Next is to do the knee tightening or knee contouring, and to do that, just going from the knee line by 1 inch from the center back like this, and you repeat the same thing at the hem as well and connect it to the knee line like this. Next, you connect the knee line to the underbutt line. So this is just the only importance of the underbutt line. This is just where it comes into play, and that is it. And this beautiful curve that you're seeing right here is the new center back. So any measurements I'm marking will be starting from these new lines. So on the waistline, I'll go ahead and divide the round waist measurement by 4 and mark it out. And obviously I'm working with 27 divided by 4 gives me 6.75, which I've marked out. So you can see the way I placed my tape. On the hip line, I'm working with 36 inches divided by 4 gives me 9. I've marked it out, and I'll go ahead and connect this to the waist like this. Now, as usual, on the knee line, you go ahead and subtract 2 inches from what you have on your hip line and mark it out on your knee line. So obviously what I have is 7 inches, and that is what I'm marking out. So you can see that my tape is placed from that new center back line, right? And I'll do the same thing on the hem as well, which is the skirt length. I'll go ahead and use my rule to connect the skirt length to the knee line like this, and I'll connect these points, that's the knee line as well, to the hip. So for this side, I do not need the underbutt line. I only need the underbutt line for the center back, which is where the bum is protruding. So that's just it. So right now the back pattern is almost ready. I'll go ahead and cut it out using my scissors, of course. So any point or any part you find difficult to understand, just drop a question on the comment section, and I'll try as much as possible to respond to your questions. So at this point, the back pattern is almost ready. So I'll also go ahead and cut out the waistband from this back pattern. So obviously I stated earlier on, so take note of this side back and the center back. It's very important. So obviously I said I want this band to be 1.5 inches wide, so that is what I'm marking out, 1.5 inches for the band. That is how wide I want this band to be. And I'll bring my rule to connect the dots to get a straight line like this. So always indicate the center back, the waist, indicate everything possible on your waistband so you do not get confused when you need to cut out your fabric. So I'll go ahead and cut this out, cut the waistband out of the skirt. Now after doing this, for the allowances, I'll be leaving half an inch here, 1 inch here at the side back, half an inch for joining here, and 1 inch at the center back. You know, at the center back we have zip there, so 1 inch there, and half an inch for joining here, 1 inch at the center back, 1 inch at the side back. And for the hem, like I earlier stated, I'm yet to decide how many inches I'm leaving. I'm yet to decide the method of sewing I want to use for the skirt. So once I cut it out on fabric, I'll show you. So I'll pin the waistband to the pattern while I go ahead and fold the fabric into two and cut out the front pattern. So right now you can see the fabric is folded into two, as you can see, and the front pattern has been pinned on this fabric with the allowances. You can see half an inch at the waist, 1 inch at the side here, and for the hem I finally decided to leave 2 inches at the hem here. I decided on using hemming gum. So if you want to use normal stitches round, you can use 1 inch for your hem. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and cut this out. So for me, I'm using hemming gum at the down, that's why I left 2 inches. And I'll just give you a little snip just to know where the 2 inches for my hemming allowance start from. Now you know that this skirt has a front slit at the side. Obviously that's the purpose of this video. So right now I'm going to indicate where the front slit is going to stop on the skirt. So for my client, she wanted the front slit to stop 9 inches above the original knee. That is 9 inches from her knee. That is where she wanted this front slit to stop. So right now go ahead and measure. So go ahead, always make sure you ask where do you want the slit to stop, so you don't, you know, go beyond what the client's desire or what you desire. Just decide. So 9 inches from the knee line, original knee line precisely, and I'll go ahead and mark this out. So I'm just going to bring in my chalk to extend this line to the fabric, because I'm going to give this point a nice little notch like this, just to indicate that okay, this is where this slit, that is the side slit, is going to stop. So this is where the side slit is going to stop at the front pattern. So that is just it. So right now it's time to cut out the back pattern. So, and make sure your fabric is on fold. So I've placed it, you can see half an inch on the waist, 1 inch for the zipper allowance, which is the center back, 1 inch for the side seam, and also 2 inches for the hemming allowance. And I'll go ahead and bring in my scissors and cut this out. So go ahead and cut. So now that this is ready, next step is to go ahead and give your little snips like this, just to indicate where your hemming allowance stops or is starting from. You understand? So these are the waistband, and I went ahead to cut out 2 of the waistband. That is, one as the main fabric, one as the lining, and make sure that the main fabric and the lining are the same fabric. And the next step right now is to go ahead and iron and stay to the main fabric of the waistband. So you just pick one out of each that's going to serve as the main fabric. Although they are the same, just pick out one. So I'll go ahead and bring in the stay and iron it on the wrong side of the waistband. So this is the front waistband, so I will iron the stay on the wrong side of the front waistband, and this is done on the main fabric of the waistband. So you also repeat the same thing on the waistband of the back pattern as well. go ahead and iron your stay to prep them for sewing. Next step, I'll go ahead and bring in the front pattern, and right now I'm removing my pin so that I can remove the front pattern from the fabric. So I'll go ahead and lift the pattern paper off it and open up the front fabric because it's time to hem. So there are two ways you can hem this. Either you go ahead and weave the edge here, and after weaving you bring in your hemming gum, double the hemming gum and iron, or you can fold in 1/2 inch and iron with the hemming gum inside. That is if you cannot weave just like me, but if you can weave, make sure you weave. And also hem the back pattern as well using the same process. So these are my waistband, and I've gone ahead to iron stay to them. So it's time to bring in their lining in order to stitch them up. So I'll go ahead and bring in the lining for the front waistband, and I will go ahead and remove the pattern from it like this. And in placing this, make sure that the waist are lying on each other correctly. That is, the waist is lying on the waist of the main fabric, and close up the waist using the 1/2 inch allowance that you left while cutting out the fabric. So for the back waist bands, I also bring in their linings as well. So there's something I failed to mention: always notch the center back of your back skirt pattern and the waistband as well, so that you can be able to differentiate the center back from the side back. It is very important. Always notch the center back of your back patterns. And for the waistbands, you go ahead and close up the waist using the 1/2 inch allowance that was left, and always make sure that the center backs are lying on each other. So at this point, I've joined them together, and I also went ahead to top stitch. So to top stitch, bring the stitch to the lining and run a tiny little stitch on the lining like this. So right now it's time to sew these bands to the remaining part of the skirt. So I'll be doing this to the front skirt, and I'll be bringing in the remaining part of this skirt, which is this. So you can see I've aimed it, and you can see that there's no stitch on the right side. That is just the advantage of this aiming. So to secure this more so that the aim lasts longer, just do tacking on it. That is, tack with your needle and thread. And while tacking, make sure that the tacking is not showing on the right side of the fabric. So right now it's time to attach the waistband, and in order to do so, flip over to the wrong side of your skirt like this and place the waistband like this. So you go ahead and place the lining on the wrong side of your skirt like this and stitch up the waist using 1/2 inch. So you go ahead and stitch up the waist using 1/2 inch like this. So you can see how I placed it. And after stitching it up, you turn it over to the right side. You turn the skirt over to the right side and then fold over the waistband like this. So you can see the part with the stay is where it's going to be on the right side of the skirt. So then you fold in 1/2 inch of the waistband like this and run a stitch through it at the edge to secure the waistband to the skirt. And you also repeat the same thing on the back pattern as well, as you can see. So make sure that the center backs are lying on each other. That is, center back of the waistband is lying on the center back of the main part of the skirt. Yes, and you place the lining of the waistband on it like this on the wrong side of the skirt and close it up using 1/2 inch. Close up the waist using 1/2 inch, and then you flip it over to the right side and then fold over your waistband like this and fold in 1/2 inch like this. That is at 1/2 inch allowance, and run a stitch through it. So as you can see, I have sewn in the waistband. You can see how beautiful it is looking, and this is the other part of the back pattern as well. You can see how nice it is, and this is the front pattern. So you can see the waistbands has been attached to the patterns. So right now it's time to close up the center back. So the zip is going to be at the center back, so you'd want to mark out where you want the zip to be. So make sure you mark out few inches above that stopper on the zip. Mark it out, and then you go ahead and close up the center back using 1 inch, and you're going to stop at that point you marked out where the zip is going to stop. So that is just it. So you use 1 inch to close up the center back. So I'll go ahead and do that and open it up and iron. So there will be no slits at the back pattern because there is already slits on the front pattern. Hope you remember. So I'll go over and close up the center back using the 1 inch allowance I left on the center back by cutting out the fabric, and I'll be stopping few inches above this zip stopper here. Next, I'll bring in the front fabric and I'm going to fold it back into fold like this, and I'll go over and iron the center front just to get the midpoint of this front fabric. So I'll go ahead and iron and I'll bring it back. So this is it, guys. I've ironed, and by the time you open, you're going to get a gaiter at the center front. So this just tells you that this is the center of your front skirt. This is very important when it comes to front slits. Now you go ahead and decide where you want the slit to be. Is it on the right side or on the left side? So for my client, she wants the front slit to be on the left side of her skirt. So this is the left side of the skirt, and this is where the slit is going to be. So there are several ways to create front slits, and I'm going to be using one of the method for this. In another video, I'll be using another method. So let's just use this particular method for this. So for this method, you need the bust span measurement of your client. So for my client, the bust span measurement is 7 inches. That is from my nipple to nipple measurement is 7 inches. So that 7 divided by 2 gives me 3.5, and I'll put this in mind. So next, from this part that the slit is going to stop, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. That is from that point I notched earlier on. I'll come down by 1 inch. So you can come down by half an inch or 1 inch, but make sure you come down by at least 1 inch or half an inch. And I'll go ahead and start marking out the 3.5. That is the bust span, that is the nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, which gave me 3.5. So I'll go ahead and start marking out the bust span measurement, which is the 3.5, like this. And remember, I'm doing this on the left side of this skirt because that is where she wants the front slit to be. So like I earlier stated, this is one of the various methods of creating your front slit for your skirt pattern. There is also another method, and I think I would better just make a video for that method. So I'll keep marking 3.5 till I get to the hem of this skirt here. So if you want your front slit to be on the right side of your skirt, go ahead and do this on the right side of your skirt. So right now I'm going to make sure that what I have here corresponds to this point. So you can see I went quite above, so I'm going to come down further to make sure I have exactly what I marked out on the side here. So that is it. So the reason for coming down by 1 inch or half an inch from the point you marked out at on where your slit is going to stop is for the sewing allowance, because you want to have a sewing allowance. So that is just it. So right now I'll go ahead and cut this open using my scissors. And after cutting this front slit open, I'll bring in the back pattern. So this is the back pattern. As you can see, I even went ahead to iron it. You can see where I stopped and I ironed it. So this is the right side of it. So right now it's time to sew in the zip. So to sew in the zip, go ahead and place your zip like this on this part of the skirt. So you open up this part 1 inch, remember, and you place your zip like this and stitch it. So you stitch it, make sure it's 0.25 inch away from the zip, main zip, what should I call it? I don't know, but you understand. Then you stitch the other part as well to this side of the zip as well. So make sure it's 1 inch because that is the allowance you left. Next, I'll bring in the front pattern, and this is it. So next, you go ahead and bring in a bias or a piece of the fabric, whichever you want to make use of is fine. But if you're using a bias, make sure it's the same color with the fabric that you're using. So you're going to go ahead and place it like this and run a stitch through it. Make sure you fold in half an inch like this. Let me move this upward so you can see. So you make sure you fold in half an inch of either the bias or the strip of fabric that you're using, and you close it up using 0.25 inch. Yes, you stitch here up using 0.25 inch. This is just to make the edge of the slit looks neat. So you go ahead and do that, and then you get to this point, you turn again and close it up using 0.25 inches. Make sure at the end of these strips you always fold in half an inch or 0.5 inch like this, you get. So make sure you do that. Then after doing that, you're going to flip this over to the wrong side of the fabric and use your aiming gum to secure it. So this is it, and make sure you weave the edge. Make sure you weave the edge. If you're using a bias, then there's no need to weave the edge, but you can go ahead and weave the edge just to make it look more beautiful. So this is the front slit after securing it with the aiming gum. So I'll go ahead and bring in the back pattern. So this is the back pattern, and you can see I've stitched in the zip. It's looking beautiful, right? So next I'll bring in the front pattern, and I'm going to place the front pattern on it because it's time to close. So I'm admiring this slit. Yes, it's so beautiful. I love it. So right now I'm going to make sure that the right sides are facing each other. That is, the right side of the back pattern is facing the right side of the front pattern. And make sure you weave these edges. Make sure you do so, please. It's very important. Make sure you weave. In short, after sewing the side seam, also weave the side seam. It's important. So this is one way of, you know, sewing a skirt with front slits. So make sure the right sides are facing each other, and you go ahead and close up the side seams using 1 inch, and voila, you are done. You are done with your skirt that has the front slits. So this is it, guys. So if you enjoyed this video, and if this video was helpful to you, please do well to hit the subscribe button and also give this video a thumbs up so you can see how beautiful this skirt is looking. So this is one way of making a front slit skirt. Once I make the video using the other method, I will also drop the link on the description box so you can go ahead and watch it and also, you know, practice. So guys, see you on my next video. Love you. Bye.